Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
A billboard that said, "Your wife is hot." And then at the bottom it said, "Better get your AC fixed."
Welcome to the Comedians in Elevators podcast. I've got my guest, Robin Brooke. Robin, say hi, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Robin Brooke. I moved recently from South Florida to the mountains in Virginia, which is the amazingness of technology today. We can be anywhere. My livelihood through most of my life has been professional stage, and about 20 years ago, I added to that voiceover. So I am a voiceover talent. I also have a nonprofit that I founded, and I have a co-founder with me as well. It is Autistic Voiceover Artists. So we are now growing bigger. We're changing our name to Neurodivergent Voice Actors so that we can include people with ADHD and other areas of neurodivergence. So I have that as well as my voiceover business, as well as theater that I'm doing. So that's kind of
I love
me
it.
in a nutshell.
I love it. Well, we have a bunch of questions, but I got to ask some question. We'll see what your answer is, if you want to answer, about what exactly is ADHD, because I have a theory, and it's probably it may align where if you're the depressed part is you're in the past, the anxious part is you're in the future, and the goal is to be in the present.
That's interesting. One thing that I know is that it's different for men than it is for women.
Okay.
I know for women it tends to be more hyperactivity in the brain more than in the physical self.
Okay.
So it's like if you know one person with ADHD, or if you know one person with autism, or if you know one neurotypical person, you know one neurotypical or one autistic or one, because everybo's different. That's
Well,
the
the
whole
reason why
spectrum
I
thing.
ask is I've maybe I knew more in the past, and now a lot of them are medicated, and so they kind of it's unclear as to see the symptoms as much, and so it's hard to tell. So anyway, I don't want to go too dive, but I was just curious how you saw the past future relationship with that.
So many different things to read. I was just reading an article last night on how PTSD can be, as a child, can be responsible for the forming of ADHD. I mean, there's just the
Right.
sky's the limit. Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of this guy, Robin, you ready for the first question?
Yeah.
Actually, well, are you ready to get started?
I'm ready to get started.
All right. Listen, to my regular listeners, I know you don't like when at the beginning of these conversations I ask you to subscribe. None of us like it. I don't like saying it. I don't like it being in here. But it's frustrating. You know what else is frustrating? It's also frustrating when I look in the back end of the YouTube channel and I see that 56% of you that watch frequently haven't yet subscribed. And I know this because I see it in the comments section. You say things like, "I didn't know I didn't subscribe." And that's actually what fuels the show. Basically, it's like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask all the time, because it enables us to build and build and build, and we're going for the long term here. Hit the subscribe button and we'll continue to build this show for you. That's my promise. Thank you to all you guys that do subscribe. It means the world to me. So the whole point of the podcast is to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian. So I define the comic as any person telling funny jokes versus the comedian who's a funny person telling any jokes. So Robin, would you agree that you start as a comic and evolve into a comedian?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I think of comedians as like Lucille Ball. Did she start as a comic, or is she just a funny person, who did, film and later went into TV, and that's where she really made her mark? So did she start as a comic? That's one of the first people I think of. So
Well, if you want me to answer, I don't know because I don't know her pre-show life, right, on I Love
film.
Lucy.
Yeah,
Uh,
film. Hmm.
okay. Well,
Like
even
she
then, I
went.
mean, like I'd say, I would think that the stage is more relevant, more an easier way to define comic versus comedian.
Yeah.
Once you go onto film, in front of the camera, it definitely is more comedian unless you're doing shorts where you're kind of doing slapstick stuff like on TikTok. So it's hard for me to discern, but I think she is a master of both. And so, yeah, she kind of goes through that cycle. Like, I'm a comedian, now I'm a comic, now I'm a comedian. It just gets better every time she goes through that cycle. So that's how I see it.
I guess I see it as a comic is always on stage, like live on stage, and a comedian could be in any medium, a funny person doing whatever that is. Could even be radio if we go back to like 1930s radio. Is that a comedian or a comic? Not sure.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a hard, that's when it began, right? So when you start getting the mass media, and so that's where this even begins. So yeah. So all right. So you ready for the first question, Robin?
All right.
Yeah. It's about the role of persona in comedy. So how much of the comedian's voice is a character versus the real self?
Hmm. Kind of like what we were just talking about a minute ago. I think almost every story is different. I think all of the comic comedian people that I know, um, it's character. It's not so much who they really are. It's who they've developed for this, and a lot of that might be voice inflected. Think about Stephen Wright.
Hmm.
That was definitely in the delivery. I think in that sort of monotone, deadpan. Is that is that him? Is that
Well, I mean, so you say you started on stage, right? Did I hear you
hmm
correctly? Okay.
Yep.
So, on stage, the presence is different than in front of the camera, right? Because you're trying to communicate in a different way. Would you agree?
Yep.
So the deadpan, I think, has a totally different quality when you're on stage than in front of the camera, right? So the question is like, how is there a translation that occurs? And if so, how would you do it?
You mean start if you're starting with the voice and then you're adding some of yourself, or if you're starting with some of yourself and then you're adding a vocal
Uh,
aspect?
That's an interesting way of phrasing it. So, well, I guess on stage it would be obvious that you're doing that, right? Because you have some kind of separation. On camera, it may be less so obvious. Um, so so I guess the authenticity is has a spectrum to it. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
and yeah. So for me, for the acting classes that I teach, it's you want to be authentic. You want to be true to whatever that persona is, whatever that character is, and the voice and everything else follows it. If you're being true on that path of who that is, then the voice follows it. If you start with the voice, then it can be kind of false if you don't have the guts of the whether it's you yourself or whether it's something you're saying you're gonna go for persona wise.
When you say start with the voice, is the entry into that like the script and you're just reading the words?
Beady, beady, beady.
So that's a voiceover thing because I'm a voiceover person. So we always say if you don't make a choice on what you're doing with that script, then you're just reading words. So you
Okay.
want to make some sort of choice. So either the director or the author gave it to you, or maybe there's clues in the script where it says in a high squeaky voice. Um,
Right.
and then if you don't have any of that, you yourself have to bring a choice to the table, or you're just reading words.
So for you get a little more into the weeds. So on the scripts that you look at, do you see ones that are focused more on voiceover only? Do you see more voice instruction as opposed to something that's more visual
More character instruction, like who is this character and being
for
true to
voiceover
that.
scripts?
Yeah. And
Okay.
because again, you have to know who that person is, and then the voice kind of follows. Now, they may say, hey, we want a really soft, feminine princess sound. We want a really raspy, it's got, texture to it. We want a Linda Hamilton and the Terminator sound. Yeah, a lot of times you'll get that in your what we call the specs. They'll tell you, we're looking
Yeah.
for this sound.
So I forgot what it was called, but where the singing contest where the judges can't see the
The voice.
contestants. Yeah. So do you see that as a valuable kind of, or maybe that's the differentiation between maybe a voiceover script and something visual, a visual script, and that maybe it's like the comic versus comedian. Maybe it's better to start with the voiceover script, even though that's the more evolved one.
Gosh, I don't know if because everybody is so different. Someone might be better
Sure.
at something than
That's
somebody
true.
else.
Right.
Someone might be visually very good with the faces and the things they're doing. Well, that wouldn't work in voiceover.
Right.
And then somebody might be, it's all totally in the tone and the pauses and the timing. There's so many different elements and so
Yeah.
many different strengths and weaknesses
Yeah.
that those
That's
comics might have.
yeah. So it seems like there is no ideal method for starting a project, right?
I'm not helping you. I'm not helping you out
No,
very much.
no. It's it's a debate to figure out what is really going on with the universe, right? So speaking of, how about punching up versus punching down? So, where do comics versus comedians subscribe to this? And let me put it in some historical context. Did a jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester?
Hmm. And once he killed the court jester, did he put on the jester's costume and pretend to be the jester, or did he just do his own thing?
That's the best question to ask. Yeah. What did he do right the moment
What
after?
did he
How did
do?
he?
Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, I guess you could see it either way. Is he doing the deadpan, or is he, fully
Physical,
identifying with the?
physicality. Because you think of a
Yeah.
jester and you think of someone that's doing, a lot of physical
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And if he killed a really physical jester and he was deadpan, he'd be like, they'd obviously knew it wasn't the same jester. They'd know someone, where did he go?
Yeah. So I'm working on an origin story for that. I mean, we've seen it in a lot of medieval plots, right? But so then is criticizing dead people considered punching down?
Ah, I think it just depends on the situation. How long ago did they die? What were the circumstances? There's a bad taste thing, and then
Hmm.
there's a not a bad taste thing.
Right.
And what makes that so? Is it the time that's passed? Is it the circumstances of the death? Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yes. It's tough to switch on to figure out which one it is. So how about the cultural translation of comedy? So how do jokes that work in one country bomb in another?
When you don't understand terminology, I mean, we can use Trump for example. The word Trump in England means fart. It doesn't mean that here. We don't use that term. We don't say that. So that adds a whole. I was with my ex-husband is British, and I remember driving by Wendy's and it said "get stuffed." That was their saying for the stuffed baked potato, and he was like, "How are they allowed to put that on a sign?" So I think it's probably maybe it doesn't work if we don't get the lingo, you know?
For sure. And it's amazing, England being as close to English as possible, but yet the subtleties are quite profound when you hear them.
Yeah, like, trunk in your car for boot. Yeah, they
Right,
say boot, we say trunk. I mean, it's like a whole different planet for some
right.
words. Yeah, so
Yeah,
we might not get a joke about a boot.
right.
We'd be like, "Well, what do you mean? Are you talking about shoes? Are you talking about Wait, I don't get it."
Yeah, and especially if you try and well, I'm not even going to attempt. I can already hear it not landing, so I'm gonna let that one sit. So, how about the
I already
so
know what you're going to say. Yeah.
oh, okay. Maybe it's not. It was not a three-letter word though. So, how about the so how does the silence when your joke doesn't land hurt? Physically, emotionally, morally, or spiritually?
100%. Ooh, I'm going to say emotionally or hard on your spirit. So if you mean that kind of spiritually, but if you mean spiritual, religious, it's going to be emotional. It's my answer on that one. Absolutely. They hate me, kind of a thing. Or do they hate me? Or I've still got 15 minutes left to go. How am I going to get through this? Um, yeah.
I noticed that religious people don't use the word spiritual.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's an interesting. Hmm.
I don't know if you, I mean, most people, when they say spiritual, they're almost explicitly implying not religious, right? So, but of course they're synonymous. At least when I hear people actually speak the words, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so would you say that comics are more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
Say that again.
Are comics more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
I could see that. It depends on what kind of comedian we're talking. Is it a I Love Lucy in a TV show following a script comedian? Where well, yeah, you might be right. But then again, I think there's always a case to disagree. But in
Right.
general, yeah, maybe you might be right.
Well, I don't want to be right. That would be not interesting, but
Or maybe I might agree with you, but I know
okay.
there will be instances where it's not true,
Right.
if that makes sense.
90%, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Very important question. Advertising and self-promotion. So who advertises themselves more? The comic, the comedian, or the magician?
You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast and get the message out today. See you soon.
I think it just depends on the person because you might have an amazing. Oh, I see. You're breaking it into. Um, um, I would feel it's the comic and the magician.
Okay. So
Just
then, of course,
if I think about what press I see, and if I think about, I when I think magician or comic, I think more traveling, gigging,
mhm,
and absolutely necessary, or you're just, you know, you absolutely it's marketing's necessary for anything.
right.
But if I had to pick, I'd say those two.
So how is the comedian marketing different
Then,
than the comic and the magician?
mm, I don't know venues, maybe. I don't know. Again, it depends on your act.
Sure.
Like it
So
depends. Are you marketing with snark? Are you marketing with, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go check this out because this title is this thing is sounds really funny. Or is it just like everybody else markets like this and you don't stand out? It just
so
depends on
have
the
you seen marketing in snark in print?
I think you can have snarky print. Yeah.
Okay. But you can't
Yeah.
recall any, like a billboard, you're
Oh,
like, that's snarky.
not specifically, but yeah. Yeah, and those are things that kind of stand out. And then there's not stuff with snark. I remember seeing on 95 a billboard that said your wife is hot. And then at the bottom it said better get your AC fixed. So I don't
Yeah.
and there's that too. The flip,
Right.
the sort of flip in stuff.
Yeah,
That's the kind
especially
of
with,
stuff I'm going to
yeah.
be
No, that's a
curious
good one.
about that. I'm going to want to check that person out more than I'm going to want to check out one that says, 20 years experience. I'm going to want to check out the thing that's a little off the beat, off the wall.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like that. So you actually saw that billboard, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of my
Okay.
favorites, and I was really bummed when it got taken down because it was so
Yeah.
clever. Yeah.
No, it is. It's good. I could see it working. So then who survives better in the cancel culture environment? The comic, the comedian, the magician, or the mudslinger?
Hmm. Well, I was going to say the comedian because obviously comics are having, you know, uh, but then you added mudslinger.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
It's the
I,
guy at the execution throwing the tomatoes.
yeah, yeah, it's a toss up between comedian and mudslinger. And again, it depends on how your society's rolling in the time, you know?
Hmm.
I
Okay.
mean, 1950s were a heck of a lot different than the 70s, than now. So it
Yeah.
probably depend on
You
your
skipped the
time.
90s, wasn't that the best
Oh,
decade?
I could have added 80s too, but and 60s. But yeah, so I was trying to fit fewer in the category, but yeah, they're all so different.
Right, right. Okay. So now, so how about comedy as commentary? So when does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
Hmm. Do they cross there?
I mean,
I don't
like,
know.
so on stage, I mean,
Like
there are
George
some,
Carlin, or the
right.
George Carlins, the Scottish guy, I can't remember his name. Um,
Um,
where it is more than just being funny. It is their philosophy
right.
on whatever. When do they cross into that? I think it's just who they are from the beginning. They either are or they aren't.
Okay.
That type, you know,
Right.
um, that type.
Well, some we've seen actually, I don't know
Cross.
if it's the time. Yeah. I don't know if you've, can,
So I would imagine when they either get very comfortable or when they just don't care what people think. Maybe when they're
right.
big enough that they're not worried about, will anyone come to my show?
Right.
You know?
They almost like, I dare you not to. I've had enough of this,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think they're feeling very secure when they make that cross. If it's someone that's morphing, not always been that way.
Right. So then is truth treasure in heaven?
Oh, you're gonna have to repeat that.
Is truth treasure in heaven?
Is truth treasure in heaven? I don't know, because I don't know. I don't know what goes on in heaven. Um,
Fair enough.
yeah.
It's a setup for the next question, really. But
Oh, let's say
no, that's
yes.
fine. You
Let's say
answered.
yes. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, I mean, if it's not, not everyone agrees. What is truth? Is there heaven? There's a whole bunch of assumptions you have to make with that. So, the whole reason why I asked that question is for this one. So, Robin, are you ready to enter the multiverse?
Yes.
Okay.
What the
So,
heck?
why not, right? The
Right.
background's almost there. So, board game Zoomcast, play versus performance. So, you have to choose an avatar. So, if comedy were a board game Zoomcast, are you competing as the colorist avatar, adding tone, mood, and shading, or the Foley artist avatar, building punchlines with soundscapes and timing?
Ah, the first one.
Okay.
Tone, mood, shading, I think. For me.
Okay. So, then does comedy work better when it's painted vividly or when it's orchestrated sonically?
I'm going to say vividly, because to me that would be more authentic. I think of someone like Robin Williams. I mean, every character was crazily that character, with 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 posturing, with voice, with accent, with tone. Um, I would say that's definitely that's definitely going to be a more vivid performance for me.
Okay. Are you combining the two? So the vivid visual part is also audio?
Um, Again, we run into that thing. Is it a comic or a comedian who is visual in their delivery,
Hmm.
or a more in what they do with sounds, or combination, and which is
Right.
the strongest? And
All right, fair.
then you get into audience preference, because you might like
Yes.
a different type of comic than I might like. Um, or I might
Now,
think I don't like something, and then okay, I go, and then I'm totally changed by that talent, by whoever that was.
so if this were true, would you see that perhaps the comic doesn't change for the audience where the comedian does?
I
Like
think
evolve themselves based off of the audience?
I would almost say the comic changes more for the audience
Okay.
than the comedian does. Because I think the comedian's probably truer to whatever their shtick is.
Love them or hate them, they're going to be that way,
Yeah.
right? Where the comic is going to adapt,
Yeah,
crank out some
yeah.
different
Like,
jokes.
oh, that didn't work. I'm gonna make
Right,
sure I take out the other jokes that are like that and I
right.
go this way instead. That would be my
Where the
guess.
comedian is going to be like, my character didn't work, so I'm just not going to do
I'm
this,
I'm in trouble. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
Robin, here in the Comedians in Elevators podcast, we have a tradition where the previous guest asks a question for the next guest. And the previous guest was George Stevens. And his question for you, Robin, is how do you eliminate distractions while you work?
Oh, like if I'm on stage or in
Uh,
general or
yeah, I would think in general, but on stage
well,
definitely makes sense.
I'm lucky because in general I work on my own schedule and with my deadlines I always make sure there's buffer. So if it was a day when I was thoroughly just distractible, I'd say, today is a good day to go do something else. I will do this tomorrow when I'm not distracted.
Right.
If I'm on a really tight deadline or, just I need to not be distracted, I can focus. And that may be all the theater training and the years of just, you start at the beginning and you go through the end and you cannot veer. You can't just walk off stage and go do something else. You've got to follow through and you've got to do what you're doing. You might be sick, you might be tired, and you just follow through.
So, would you say that would be commitment to the present?
Commitment to the audience, commitment
Mm,
to whoever you're doing the work for, commitment to yourself, because at the end of the night, then you can chill and watch that, whatever it is you're going to watch, and go, yeah, I got it all done, as opposed to,
right.
ugh, I can't, you know. Yeah, commitment, definitely.
All right. All right. So, last question, legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comic's Type 5 survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
I think, so you're saying as a group who gets remembered?
Yeah.
It's so hard. It's so hard because if I did delineate, what I perceive as comedian versus comic, there's geniuses in both sides. So who gets remembered? If I have to pick one, I'm going to say comedian.
Okay. So, which one is George Carlin?
Comic.
Okay. But he's
But
one of the
but
most,
with what we talked about before, also um, the more than just the comedy. The point of view,
right,
you know, um,
philosopher, preacher.
philosopher. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's kind of a comic plus or,
Okay.
a
He's the
supersonic.
first plus.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, Robin. Well, where can everybody find you online?
So I would say my website, it's Babbling Brooke, and I'm Brooke with an E. So babblingbrookeproductions.com. And if you are interested in information on the nonprofit, there's still a link on that one to get you there as well. But
Awesome.
it's all things voiceover that I do. And also come to my TikTok, and my Instagram. It's Babbling Brook VO, V as in Victor O voiceover. I do a lot of fun, goofy things on there that oftentimes will get
Awesome.
me work just because it's so comical.
Yeah, and noticeable, right? That's the key here. Unique, unauthentic.
Different.
So, Rob, absolutely. So, Robin, thank you so much for being my guest. And for everyone, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for having me.
If you're interested in too much information like in the network state or Mantipus the chicken shit, check out this video. Or is it this one right here? Well, either way. Lizard.